Oh, I'm Caroline Marvin. I'm a friend of Neila's. So she offered me the opportunity to take this role, which is docent. And I know what a docent is because my mother was a docent at the National Cathedral. And it means you know about an archive. You know all the materials. You know what makes them special. You can take a tour. You can shine a light on something. You can say, did you notice? And I'm trying to do a little bit of that. But mostly I want to set a frame now that helps us continue to do that as we go through the evening of this party. There's no way I could do justice to the breadth of this amazing woman's creative expression in her first 80 years. There are two kind of highlighting memories I have in my experience store of Times with Neila. One is there were a group of women sitting in my living room, and I gave them a task. I just said, let's go around and everyone say their mother's motto. So my mother's motto was not to do great things, but to create an environment in which great things may be done. Another woman had a mother whose motto was, is it on sale? Neila's mother's motto was, express, express, express. Did I get that right? Now, if you go to her little bio chart next to her tree of life, you will see a description of her mother and the things her mother did in her life. It's pretty amazing. In addition to being an ad executive on Madison Avenue, she was a cook and a designer and an artist especially. So anyway, she grew up with models of how to be so multifaceted. I had this amazing, the other memory is an experience really. Neila was talking about something she was going to do. She was going to get a consultation from an artist who specializes in working with people who feel a little blocked in their creative expression or like they don't know what their next step is. And I don't know what kind of a web she spun, but I wound up saying, can I go with you? So we went together, and I took 550 photographs that were about my trip to Africa. She took a lifetime of paintings, drawings. In that space, I got to hear her really talk about photographs, the enormity of what it means to integrate a life at 80 when it's been so vast and broad and so creative. And in my heart, this party is the fruit of that consultation, in that she learned that she could do what I think all of us need to do in some way, which is bring it all together. And there's something in being witnessed, something in being seen for your life that is so, it helps you see yourself. And so, Reverend Martin, would you say what you said a few minutes ago about what you wish for could come out of something like this? Like, what was it you were getting and imagining?
I want to introduce people who don't know. This is my minister, Reverend Martha Valentin, herself an extraordinarily creative person.
Absolutely.
So I was making work for Neila and said it would be great to have a workshop where we all are working on our own trees like that. It would be a very valuable experience, and we could glean from her experience of having already done one.
And Neila drifted by while you were saying that and said, yes. So, this phrase, what does it mean to go through the deep process of truly integrating the disparate elements of one's life? So Neila is musician, composer, psychotherapist, organizational development consultant, artist, Second Life futurist, writer of articles and books, friend and counselor, theoretician and activist and friend to transgender people, workshop leader, world traveler,
Gloria.
So in the program later, and so as you look around, like don't miss anything. Down there are books and articles she's written. There's an album of things that she thinks like the best restaurant in the world. There's a book she wrote. There's a manual, training manual she's written. her travel, there's her paintings, there's this tree of life that shows these different experiences, different places and times. And if you have a question for her, based on something you didn't even realize was in her life and is new or curious to you, there may be a time to ask it, or 2 or 3 or 4 that might get to ask. And that's the truth. Anything I haven't said that you would like to pop in here? I don't know what,
listening to this. It's just...
The last thing I want to say is you look gorgeous, and I love you.
One of the things, roles that I have in my life is I'm a catalyst, and I love to bring people together, obviously. I wish I could take the time to tell you about the fabulous people in this room. Incredible. But I want to introduce my daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter. Andrea, John, and Natalie over by the boat there. And I also want to express, of course they've heard this 1,000 times, but this will be 1,001, the incredible, how moved I am by how my friends, particularly Karen and Debbie, spent hours and hours and hours helping me with this, put this party together. And also, Mary Helen, where are you? Mary Helen is my young computer consultant who spent all day here helping me put all of this stuff up and helping me with the slideshow. If you haven't seen the slideshow, I'd love for you to see it sometime this evening, of my Second Life. And many other people, my musicians here, you're going to hear in a little while. There are so many people in this room who contributed to this event. So I feel like it's a shared event. I do want to inspire or encourage people to, especially as they get older, to really think about their lives, what their lives have been about, and to find some way, maybe not my way, but some way to pull together those disparate elements of everyone in this room has had a very rich life, I can tell you that right now, and has many, many talents. So to think about how you're going to integrate your life at some point so that you feel that you are in touch with the deep meaning of who you are, and you can possibly share it with others.
Neila, can you tell all of us a little bit about your musicology research, the folk research that you did just a few years ago?
A few years ago? No, when I was a child, I would spend hours in the music library in New York, which I don't think exists anymore, looking up folk ballads of the British Isles, the child ballads, and the Cecil Sharp collections, and learned a lot of those. Some of you, not all of you, know that I had a life. One of my 9 lives was as a folk singer and guitar player and singer-songwriter, and so that started really in my teen years. I always loved the music of the British Isles, and then I developed a real connection with blues and met some of the wonderful old traditional blues players like Reverend Gary Davis and Brownie McGee, Sonny Terry, some of these icons in the blues field. And then I would put those two together. You can hear it in some of my music. And in fact, later on, I'm going to tell you a little story about one of those songs. So I don't know if I answered your question, John. Were you thinking of something else?
Well, I thought you spent some time in the Adirondacks interviewing Appalachian?
Oh, no, the Catskills.
Okay.
What's one mountain range? Yeah, on my tree you'll see Camp Woodland. Very important place and institution started by a man named Norman Studer, who also had the Little Red Schoolhouse in New York. And what was amazing was that back in the 40s, this camp was integrated. And so I, fool that I was, thought that this is how the world was.
Right.
You know, I was rudely awakened later on. And we used to go up into the mountains. I went with the music directors because they knew that I could take music dictation. Because I went to the music in our high school, we learned that. And so these old codgers would sing these ballads in the oral tradition that none had ever been recorded or written down. And my job was to take the music dictation while they captured the words. And then later there was a book that came out, a collection of Catskill music. And I sang at the festival. There were a lot of festivals where all these old guys came, you know, with their fiddles and their... Alice.
Yes. Tell about how you started out computer phobic and got into Second Life and what you discovered and created there.
In 2007, I was at Fantasia Fair, which is an educational and social event in Provincetown that I worked at for probably 25 years. And one of the leaders of the community, actually, was sitting at a table with her girlfriend and told me about Second Life. And the minute I heard about it, I said, that's for me, because it was an opportunity to be creative in a new way. And it was irresistible. So I went home and signed up for it right away. And she agreed to be my mentor in there. And so she taught me how to walk and stand and fly and get around and so on. And then I began to create. So that's the main place now. I do virtual classes in using arts processes. And when you watch that a little later, you'll see the latest thing we did is a climate change program. There's a skybox. You'll see my ex-husband, who's a lifelong friend, I'm sorry he couldn't be here tonight, Bob Horn, has made these fantastic information maps about what he calls social messes. And one of them certainly is climate change. So his job is to document it and to be up to date on the latest information about it. And my job was to create a workshop where I have people actually virtually model feeling states that are attached to that issue. And you know, it would take too long for me to say any more about it. And so I like doing projects like that.
So I'd be interested in knowing what your plans are for the next 20 years.
Well, you know, this creative process thing has always been my motivator. Also, I've never been that much interested in money or making money, just enough to support myself or to get by. Time is the thing that I really value. And if I have time, I will fill it with endless kinds of creative projects of different kinds. I mean, I'm still composing. I want to say that I'm in the midst of writing a choral piece based on a poem of Reverend Marta's that I'm very enthusiastic about doing. So, you know, there's no dearth of possible things. I wish I had 2 lifetimes, really, don't we all?
You do.
You have a second life.
You do.
Yeah, right.
10,000.
Did you want to? Anything else?
Are you going to tell about the theft
you experienced in the musical
Yes,
realm
later.
Later.
That's part of the show.
About it.
After dinner, we're going to have a musical extravaganza. Some of my friends are going to sing. I'm going to sing. I'm going to tell a little story. And we'll have a little surprise here.
So,
Neila, can you give us young bucks some advice on living a life that will get us to 80 feeling and looking as good as you do?
Amen.
Well, I have to say that I have good genes, right, Andrea? I mean, I have to attribute it to my parents who had really good genes. My mother was always taken for my sister. And so good genes and good health is certainly, and I also take care of myself. I get enough sleep, I eat healthy food, I have friends, I, create. So I think I do the things that any of us do or can do to keep ourselves full of vitality. And I know I'm a little bit of a freak of nature, but
But you're
Awesome nature.
but that's how it is.
Thank you.
And one of the things too that I think makes a difference is having friends that you cultivate over time. And many of the people who are in my church who are here know that how important that is to have those kinds of connections. And so I have, since I've lived as a single woman for many, many years, I was married for 17 years, and since 79 or 80 I've been on my own. But community and friendship is a very high value for me. And I pay a lot of attention to it, as people know. I stay in touch, I keep in touch, I bug them, even people who are far away.